Hello, and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is Wednesday, July 29th, and we're over here by the antimatter multi-blocks. Now, I only did one thing yesterday with like some side things. Today was very much one thing because the internet went down and then the server crashed and then it was just couldn't access the game all day, just fine. But I did get my main goal accomplished for the day, which was to set up this guy and get it running. Now, this thing is far simpler to set up than this thing, although honestly, both quote-unquote puzzles are solved by just using regulators. Now, I will say, after I set this guy up, I looked at the wiki, and I assume they have basically the same thing going on, but theirs looked way more complicated than what I ended up doing with it. So, yeah, we'll just get into it. One note on this guy, last night after I finished recording, the only thing I did was I upped the regulators pulling in antimatter up to 1,000 liters. I was playing with the calculator not too long ago, and with my current energy hatches in here, the UMV 64 amps, the highest I could go is 1,500 without this thing power failing. Also, if I wanted to go higher, I would need to probably up these. I feel like I would feel most comfortable if the capacity for this tank is about 4 times what I'm pulling into this tank. So it wouldn't be too big of a deal. It would really just be grab new tanks and stuff, but just a little bit of busy work to get more antimatter moving faster. And I think not too far after that, when I was looking at the ideal, it said 3,200 per hatch. So like would be a little, definitely need bigger tanks on that. But at some point, probably sooner than later, I'll be building more of these guys. And then even though I set this up today, I may still move it to do a more appealing layout than what I have now. But if not, it might just turn into I can't remember what that mathematical thing is, but like the weird kind of like oblong circle that kind of closes in on itself, making shapes. There's like a special name for it, but I will see. Not too worried about it. So on to this guy. So this one is this is what makes the power. It's the Shielded Lagrangian Annihilation Matrix. And simply how it works is you take antimatter produced in this guy, mix it with matter produced in either the space elevator or the plasma forges. If you're using space elevator, it's essentially molten copper, but you don't get any bonuses. And if you're using this guy, you can use 2 of the superconductor bases. I believe UIV and UMV. It looked like UMV was the highest. Honestly, when I was playing with the calculator, you might as well just go right for UMV, even if you aren't using wireless dynamo hatches. And what I mean by that is when you're producing power in this, you can directly upload to the wireless network with wireless dynamo. Specifically, I think there's literally only one option for it, but you can install 64 on it, which is this UMV wireless dynamo, which was my plan originally. Part of why I went with UMV Super immediately. However, to craft this guy, you need Stellar Catalyst, which Stellar Catalyst requires raw stellar plasma matrix, which requires the Eye of Harmony, which we don't have, obviously. So that was off the table. So instead, I did, just to show the underside, because it's the most... Actually, we'll show it here in a second. But basically, I just use laser hatches instead. So the quote-unquote puzzle for this guy is to take one of the 2. Like I said, you might as well just right away use UMV superconductor. The other, not even for the wireless, the other reason is if you use copper versus UMV, you're literally losing out on like 1 trillion EU per tick, it looked like. It was like 2.2 to 3.2 something. So like to the power of 12 less. So literally 1 trillion EU per tick, which is, friendly reminder, what you need. That's the equivalent of 4 Dyson swarms by themselves to use copper versus molten UMV. So 100% worth it. Now, my thoughts for how to do this were pretty straightforward. So the quote-unquote puzzle for it is you just need to supply the same amount of liquid of matter and antimatter at a 5-second interval, and that's it. They just, if they're imbalanced, you get a inefficiency, and yeah, and it's I mean, if can imagine, all I did was I set up 2 fluid tanks on both sides, wireless hatches over there connecting it to the main network. One hatch has antimatter, one hatch has UMV superconductor, which I did throw a crafting card in here as well. And then all on the inside, there's a big old, like on the other side of this, there's an input hatch with a regulator. Both hatches are set to run when machine controller active, and then they're both pulling in an amount of liquid, which currently is 250 liters every 5 seconds. And it's as simple as that. Just both of those doing that, and 100% efficiency, currently producing, I believe this is 295 trillion EU per tick, if I'm remembering my zeros right. I could double check myself. So I always question myself on this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1,000 million billion trillion. Yeah, 295 trillion EU. Well, it says produced. I don't think this was per tick. I think that's the every 5 seconds. So divide that by 5. So I don't know why math is so hard for me at the moment. 75? Yeah, no, that's not right. Even less. 60, excuse me, 60 trillion EU per tick. But still, substantially more than what we do on the Dyson swarms already by itself. So that's cool. Then the only things I did in addition to just the basic regulators. So like I said, there is let me shut this off. It'll be just easier to show you. Or if this thing's not running for a bit, is if we come over here and I break this tank, if we look at the input hatch, like I said, I've got a wireless machine controller on here set to this frequency, set to the same frequency on the other side. The fluid regulator, use machine processing state, import mode. And then on the tanks themselves, both this tank and the other tank, I have fluid detector covers just to make detecting if I went with if it has half of its fluid on both sides. I figured that would be fine. And then on-off switch down here, because I like to have on-off switches. So the covers from the 2 tanks feed to these 2 right here. This one is the on-off switch. They all feed into an AND gate. AND gate goes to this transmitter. This transmitter submits or sends a signal to the 2 machine control covers on the input hatches, as well as the machine control cover on the actual controller block. And yeah, that's it. And then the only other thing was I did, because I wasn't sure what to expect for power input. So this guy right here is a 4 million UMV laser hatch. So that's cool. And you can see it takes in 4.63 EU per tick. So it's not this one hatch. If I start boosting the amount of antimatter, it's not going to keep up. Like, I'm going to need to craft more of these. This 4 million one actually requires required some research to do, so I did that first. But yeah, aside from that, that's basically it. If you have any questions about either of these setups, or want something shown a little better, just let me know. Feel more free to talk about it. Then the only thing I might do is change the layout a little. We'll see how I feel. Like I might literally just do 1 on a 4 here, 1 on a 4 here, and have a little askew thing going on instead of having it all perfectly lined out. I'm fine with that too. I think it makes a little, break up in the architecture. But I do want to make more of these so I can produce more antimatter without using as much power, and also be able to scale multiple machines up at the same time would be cool. So that would be the immediate goal, craft more of these. I did check my Forge of the Gods afterwards yesterday, and I assume it hasn't because the server crashed, but I do not have enough stuff yet to upgrade this guy. I'm still crafting star fuel anyways, so it's not too big of a deal. I'm short 1 gravitational shard, but I really needed to go up to the 2nd stage for anything. Like there's it's blocking progress. I would probably just undo this upgrade, which will give me back 2 shards, throw the second ring on, power it up, get enough charge to re-grab that upgrade, and then like that'll be fine. Like I can do it if I need to. I just want to make sure I have enough star fuel first. And yeah, I think the only other kind of thing in the immediate future is I do want to so the one that fluid that this guy is not receiving as much of it as it could, and it's lowering the amount of antimatter boost, is depleted in Nequata 5. Now, you can see I have 2.8 million, and that's a good sign because I was at 2.7 million just a little bit ago. And the other thing I did yesterday night was kind of like this Nequata reactor here. I went around the base and just fired up, like took off the machine controller off these and just are letting them rip and burning Nequata to make fuel. There are other options to deplete it as well. Like, for example, you could run it through neutron activator and just get a bunch of tesseracts, for example, and do that. Like, this would speed through Nequata really fast, and I might do that just to get enough to fill the hatch. And maybe I'll do that as like the crafting recipe, just to not like, because I don't want to waste all the Nequata fuel because it's also used for star fuel, for example. So that's an option. And you know, the other thing, but besides that, like I flew away for no good reason. If you look at the two new refineries I built, they're not this one for Nequata 4 and this one for Nequata 5. These guys both aren't consistently running. Now the shortcoming is not uranium or plutonium, though I do know these would turn into a problem if these were running full bore. Now I don't have enough heavy fuel. So basically, all that to say, I do want to essentially run through here, tear down a bunch of stuff, and rebuild it better to be able to keep up with Nequata 5 a little faster and be able to utilize it for the antimatter power production and the star fuel power production. Basically right here, what I'm doing is the other day, I don't think I showed this, because now I have the QFT set up for Nequardia. I now am using molten Nequardia in here to get Nequata emulsion and kickstart for everything to get heavy and light Nequata fuel, which I did shut off all these refineries. So now we're just going heavy and light Nequata fuel directly to Nequata 4, then over to Nequata 5. And yeah, so that's just, I want to improve this process, because obviously if these two are just sitting here turned off, it's not running great. You know, it's not running great. Like, I'm not hurting for Nequata 5 or anything, but I feel like I will be sooner than later. And then the only other thing I want to do in the meantime is, if we look at the Eye of Harmony here, if I try to craft just the controller, I'm missing all these blocks. I do kind of want to just craft it all at once, both the controller and all the blocks needed to build it. But the problems I'm having with that condensate hatch over on the Bose-Einstein line, it's just I'm a little hesitant to do that. Like I said, I have some ideas about how to work around it. It's just going to be a little more hands-on than I normally am for these bigger crafts. So like I said, just the casual in the meantime was going to say, is set up all these patterns I need to do. This one's funny because this must have been one of the corrupted patterns in there. So I had like 1 million corrupted patterns when I upgraded. So just set all this stuff up. We do have hexanite running. I can not for the life of me remember if I actually showed that in the last few weeks, because it was just kind of something I did real quick on the side, but I can make all the hexanite stuff. This I assume is going to be another one of the condensate line items. You can make it over here. This over here is cheaper. Neutronium tank valve 6. Some of these I don't want to use the more expensive recipe because it's just silly. And also for like speed purposes, but I may have to, just to save myself some frustration until that hatch is fixed. I know I can I did see I can upgrade to one of the dailies, and I might just do that. I don't want to, but I believe I saw on the Discord Daily 610, I think is confirmed to have the condensate hatch fixed. So maybe I'll upgrade to that guy just to be able to, right before I go to fire off the Eye of Harmony craft. But yeah, there's a bunch of random things for me to work on, and it's a little hot out now and I've been outside all day. So I think I'm going to upload this and then just chill and craft patterns and go from there. So anyways, I hope everybody had a nice day. Like I said, if you have any questions about my setup for the antimatter or anything like that, just let me know. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a good night. Goodbye.